You know when you watch a movie and it just has a certain vibe, a certain feel. Well, a huge part of that isn't just the actors or the score, it's the light, the shadow, the color, all that stuff is the art of cinematography. And today we're going to dive into how that art has completely transformed, going from actual physical film to the world of digital pixels and pure data. It's a wild ride. Let's get into it.
All right, so let's kick things off with this kind of counterintuitive idea from a master of the craft, Andrew Laszlo. I mean, this is the guy who shot movies like First Blood and The Warriors, and he said that for a story like The Warriors, the imperfect photographic approach was actually better. Wait, what? Imperfect? Why would a master cinematographer want something that's not perfect? Well, it's because that grit, that roughness, that was the soul of the story. And that tension, that push and pull between the artist's vision and perfect technology, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So, what is the cinematographer's job, really? What's the fundamental challenge?
Well, at the end of the day, it all boils down to solving one single problem. How do you tell a story with light? Seriously, that's it. It sounds simple, but think about it. Every choice they make, where to put a light, how deep a shadow is, what the texture of the image looks like, it's not just about making a pretty picture. It's all about communication. Light is a language. It can make you feel safe or it can make you feel terrified. It tells you where to look, and even more importantly, it tells you how to feel. It's all about translating emotion into light.
Okay, so to really get how much things have changed, we've got to jump in the time machine and go back to the analog era. This was the world of physical film.
We're talking about a time of pure, hands-on craft, where the image was a real thing you could literally hold. And these physical limitations, they actually sparked some amazing creativity. I mean, just think about how physical this all was. Film wasn't a file on a computer, it was a strip of celluloid coated with silver halide crystals. Light would hit it and cause an actual chemical reaction. Editors didn't have an undo button. They used a razor blade to physically cut and splice the film together. And maybe the biggest thing, every time the director yelled action, you were literally burning through money. Film stock was expensive, and you only had so much of it. The pressure was on for every single take. You couldn't just fix it in post.
And that pressure, those very real limits, they forced cinematographers to be incredibly resourceful. I mean, if you couldn't just fire up a computer and create a visual effect, what did you do? You had to build it, for real.
Here's a perfect example. On the movie Streets of Fire, our guy Andrew Laszlo needed the effect of a passing train outside a window, but getting a real train, not an option. So what did he do? He built this absolutely brilliant contraption. He got a huge 12-foot metal drum, cut slots in it, stuck a big, powerful light inside, and then started rotating it. As it spun, it created these moving patterns of light on the walls that looked exactly like the windows of a train whizzing by. I mean, how cool is that? It was pure, hands-on mechanical genius.
And then, boom, everything changed. The entire world of atoms and chemistry got replaced by bits and code. The digital revolution wasn't just a new tool, it completely rewrote the rulebook for making movies. Let's just look at the difference. The chemical emotion on film, gone, replaced by an electronic sensor. That physical strip of celluloid, now it's a data file on a hard drive. The chemical lab where you developed film, now it's just software on a laptop. And maybe the biggest change of all, those limited, expensive takes, now you can have near infinite takes. Every single part of the process went from being a physical, chemical thing to being a computational one.
And this shift happened fast, like lightning fast. In 2000, George Lucas shot Star Wars Episode II on one of Sony's first big digital cinema cameras. That was basically the signal to all of Hollywood that, hey, digital is here and it's serious. Pretty soon, everyone from Panavision on down was making high-end digital cameras. And now, shooting on actual film is pretty rare. It's the exception, not the rule.
But here's the thing. This also created a huge shift in philosophy. The very idea of exposure changed. See, with film, exposure was all about getting just the right amount of light to create a chemical reaction. But with digital, it became about capturing the most data possible. That's why you hear cinematographers talk about shooting in log. It produces this really flat, gray, washed-out-looking image. Why? Because that ugly, flat image is packed with information, all the details in the brightest brights and the darkest shadows. It's like a painter having all their pure pigments ready on the palettes, so they have total freedom to mix the final colors later. The image itself became a database.
So all this new tech created a totally new kind of cinematographer. Their job just exploded. It wasn't just about what happened on set anymore, it pushed them deep into the technical post-production side of things.
And the key to all this new power was something called the digital intermediate, or the DI. Basically, this is the process where all the footage, whether it was shot on film or digital, gets turned into high-res data. And in that DI suite, a cinematographer suddenly had godlike control. They could tweak colors, contrast, anything with insane precision.
So what did that mean for their job description? Well, it got a lot longer. They went from being the keeper of the image on set to being the aesthetic leader for the whole project. They had to become data managers who could speak the language of color spaces like Rec. 709 or DCI-P3 to make sure the movie looks right everywhere. Their job didn't end when the shooting wrapped. In a way, a whole new part of it was just beginning.
So this brings us all the way back to the beginning. With all this amazing, perfect, precise technology, did we lose some of the soul? Has the art been replaced by science?
Well, the answer is a pretty clear no, because the artist, the human eye behind the camera, still matters more than anything. Think about it like this. Any piece of technology has a program, right? It's designed to do a specific thing. But creativity has agency. An artist doesn't just follow the instructions, they have a vision, they make choices.
And as the writer Alexander Neville points out, filmmakers often use their cameras against their intended purpose. They'll take a brand new multi-thousand-dollar digital camera and slap a cheap vintage flawed lens on the front of it. Or they'll intentionally crank up the sensitivity to create digital noise that feels like old-school film grain. They break the text rules to serve the story's rules. It's the exact same spirit that made Andrew Laszlo choose Imperfect for The Warriors. And that, right there, is the heart of it. The tools couldn't be more different, right? We've gone from chemistry to code, from celluloid to sensors. But the core job, the fundamental human challenge of cinematography, hasn't changed one bit. The goal was never just to capture an image. The goal has always been, and will always be, to use light and shadow to tell a story that makes you, the audience, feel something. So as our cameras get smarter and smarter, able to capture the world with almost perfect clarity, it leaves us with a really interesting question to think about. What is the one thing the human eye will always see differently?